This is CBC Here and Now.
It was a slap on the wrist for her and a slap in my face.
She lost her child at the end of her pregnancy 3 years ago. Her obstetrician admitted to making mistakes during delivery, but Crystal Whalen isn't happy with the discipline.
I don't think anybody would ever have seen something like this happen.
And I think reality is hitting for a lot of people now.
Hearing those words that the church is sold is still shocking.
The reality is sinking in for parishioners as Catholic churches are sold off, some to unknown bidders. Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. I'm Chrissy Holmes. Carolyn Stokes is off tonight. We begin with an update on a search that gripped the province last fall. The Island Lady, a fishing vessel that went down off of southern Labrador last September, likely sank quickly and with little warning. That's according to the Transportation Safety Board of Canada. Those findings were released in a report today by the TSB. Mark Russell and Joey Jenkins of Mary's Harbour are believed to have been aboard the Island Lady when it went down. The pair had headed out to fish for cod. While a debris field was found, the boat and its crew members were not. The TSB could not give a cause for the sinking, but says the men did not issue a distress call and likely entered the water unexpectedly. It was an extensive search that spanned 10 days and more than 9,000 nautical miles. Today, Mark Russell's father, Dwight, told CBC that he'd like to see a change so that emergency beacons are made mandatory. If you're looking to see an Eastern Health psychologist and wondering why the wait is taking so long, well, this is likely the reason. The health authority says it's down nearly 45% of its psychologists. CBC News has learned it's because of a mass exodus of psychologists that moved from the public to the private sector. Some psychologists say that Eastern Health was warned this would happen, but that those warnings were not heeded. Here Now's Ariana Kelland has that story.
Caden Daly comes here every Monday with the same message. Daly arrived in St. John's from BC in 2017 to be closer to family while struggling with mental health issues. One of the professionals they needed to see was a psychologist.
It was actually very difficult. I was put on a wait list and it was over 12 months before I got a call back saying that I had a possibility of seeing somebody. But by then I had already gotten a psychologist through another program because I had been in the hospital. Otherwise I would have been waiting 12 or more months to see somebody.
As of April 2022, Eastern Health had 25 vacant clinical psychology positions out of 56 and a half total. Some of those vacancies include temporary leaves of absence. Neuropsychologist Dr. Tanya Lentz left her job with the Health Authority last September for private practice. She had been working at the Janeway Children's Hospital's Rehabilitation Service and created the Pediatric Neuropsychology Service, assessing skills, abilities, and behavior.
A lot of it was just basically crisis management towards the end, simply because there was only one of me, and both of those services cover the entire province.
The demand was so high, Lentz says, that some patients were waiting 3 to 4 years to see someone.
A lot of times it was, well, do your best, or you need to learn how to manage your caseload better. So a lot of kind of gaslighting, essentially, is what we were getting from management.
She says it became unethical to stay because she couldn't properly treat her patients. Lentz is not alone in that assessment.
I think at this point we'd have to say it's a mass exodus, from the public system, and this is something we saw coming.
A year ago, Dr. Lisa Moores presented this report she co-authored to Health Minister John Haggie outlining issues reported by psychologists. It warned that there was already a shortage of public health specialists and that psychologists were unhappy. Moores says part of the problem surrounds stepped care, a model brought in about 5 years ago, matching the right level of care and treatment to the needs of the person who's seeking help. But Moores says psychologists have been left out of the development of this model and that there's been a shift away from long-term care, with psychologists reporting having to move away from intensive work with individuals to same-day walk-in services.
We've seen a real emphasis, a strong emphasis on programs. And on programs or models being the thing that will fix all of these problems. Programs don't treat mental health, right? Professionals treat mental health.
Moores presented 10 recommendations to government to stop the hemorrhaging of psychologists from the public sector. So far, she says, she hasn't heard back.
It's in a crisis, and I don't use that word lightly.
Dr. Janine Hubbard is president of the Association of Psychology Newfoundland and Labrador. She says demand is so high that even the private sector is struggling to meet demand.
Because we've had all these vacancies, we've got more people with more complex issues seeking out private services, whether they can afford it or not. And in some cases, just desperate enough that they're trying to do that. But as a result, the private caseloads are full. We've spent months and months this year with families, at least in the St. John's area, unable to access a child psychologist, even privately.
Eastern Health says it's actively recruiting new psychologists. It's offering bursaries to grad students in return for service. Meanwhile, Health Minister John Haggie declined to comment for this story, but in a statement, the department said that it's created an Office of Recruitment and Retention for this very issue. As for stepped care, the province says that it's developing its own model using lessons learned from the first try. That model, however, has not yet been implemented. For Lentz, the way to keep her at Eastern Health wasn't difficult. Private practice is more lucrative, but she says that wasn't the primary reason for her leaving.
Money was the furthest thing from my mind when I was working in the public sector. It's about feeling valued, feeling heard, being able to provide ethically sound treatment for people, and that doesn't take a lot.
It's very disheartening, and it makes you
Outside the Waterford Hospital, Caden Daly hopes they'll never have to return, but says the fight for better care, well, that must go on.
It feels like the government is saying that mental health issues are a one and done kind of thing, and they're not. They're generally more pervasive.
Ariana Kelland, CBC News, St. John's.
If you have a story or a tip that you'd like to share with our investigative unit, you can always send them an email. The address is cbcnlinvestigates@cbc.ca.
Well, today was pretty beautiful out there across most areas. Temperatures reaching about 23 degrees in St. John's. Now, if you were towards the coast, this was a very different story thanks to onshore flow. 13 degrees, you can see that in action in Bonavista today. And then through central, those temperatures between 21, 22 degrees, and up across Labrador, temperatures climbing a little bit. Makovic reached 19 degrees today. So if you take a look at what's going on, we've got a ridge of high pressure to the south, area of low pressure to the west. We're seeing lots of cloud cover up across the Big Land, and this is where we're going to see showers or continue to see showers. But we did see a pretty nice afternoon with those clouds eventually clearing for the island, and we do have some warmer air in store. But take a look right now, no fog right now, in fact, outside in the harbor, about 21 degrees right now, humidex feeling like 22. We're looking at warmer temperatures as we head through the next couple of days. I'll get into those details coming up.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, police have confirmed it. A body found near Witless Bay yesterday does belong to a missing man from Portugal Cove South. 68-year-old Loyola Hardery had been missing since Friday after leaving his home on the southern shore on an ATV. A large-scale search had been underway as crews combed coastlines, the land and the air. His body was found in the ocean yesterday afternoon by a commercial fishing vessel near Witless Bay, about 100 kilometers from where Hardery had last been seen. Portugal Cove's mayor described the man as a well-known member of the community who liked to help others. Well, the mother of a child who died in 2019 is speaking out after her obstetrician admitted to making mistakes during delivery. Dr. Krista Brown was reprimanded for negligence last week during a hearing at the province's College of Physicians and Surgeons. But Crystal Whalen tells Here and Now's Mark Quinn she isn't satisfied.
It is very painful. I live with it every day. It's never going to go away.
Crystal Whalen's newborn died in 2019. She complained to the Provincial College of Physicians and Surgeons about the medical care she received in hospital. At a recent college hearing, Dr. Krista Brown acknowledged she made mistakes during the delivery of Whalen's child. Brown has been sanctioned by the medical regulator, but Whalen says those sanctions aren't enough.
It was a slap on the wrist for her and a slap in my face.
In 2019, Brown was the obstetrician caring for the then 38-year-old mother having her first child. During the 9th month of Whalen's pregnancy at the Health Sciences Centre in St. John's, the baby's heart rate was recorded as high for a prolonged period. Carly was delivered the following day, a Saturday. She died a short time later. Whalen believes the outcome would have been different had the doctor acted sooner and delivered the baby by C-section on Friday after seeing the tachycardia, or high heart rate.
She definitely should have been delivered when the tachycardia was picked up. The doctor was aware of it. She was aware of the fetal heart rate. When you know it could have been avoided, it's harder. And it's hard not to be bitter. It's hard not to be angry.
An agreed statement of facts was read at the college hearing last week. It said, Dr. Brown acknowledges that her care of the patient, and in particular, her failure to appreciate the significance of the fetal heart tracing of the patient's infant daughter on January 18, 2019, and the consequent need for urgent intervention, demonstrated errors in judgment. Brown was reprimanded and ordered to pay for professional development courses which focus on the management of a delivery and patient communication. She was also ordered to pay $10,000 for the proceedings.
We lost out, me, David, our families, friends, but the one that lost out most was Carly.
Whalen said that after Carly's death, Brown didn't speak with her or offer condolences. She said it was left to her partner to tell her that their child had died.
He said, our baby is gone, and they're going to work on her 5 more minutes. And I looked at him because I was like, no, that can't be true. I looked at him, I said, you're joking. And he just shook his head, no. He was white as a ghost, tears in his eyes. I will never even get that image out of my eyes.
Whalen says she has written the college explaining that she isn't satisfied with the judgment Brown received. Brown hasn't responded to CBC's requests for comment. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, there's a plan to use desktop software to help cut down the number of unneeded antibiotics being prescribed to patients. Eastern Health unveiled its new program in St. John's today. The health authority has linked up with the medical technology company BD Canada to run the program. Some antibiotics used to treat infections are no longer effective because of misuse and overuse. This province actually has the highest rate of antimicrobial use in Canada. Now, Eastern Health is the first in the country to install computer software that will help doctors prescribe the proper medication and an accurate amount.
World in 2019, we talked about maybe 5 million deaths among humans associated with this problem. Why are people dying? These drugs that we've been using since they were defined in the 40s and 50s no longer work. We're talking about penicillin, we're talking about fundamental, simple, cheap, old-fashioned drugs. We can't use them any longer, and that's leading to worse outcomes among patients. In fact, this has been defined and estimated within Canada as associated with 14,000 deaths in the year 2018.
The province released its latest weekly COVID numbers today. 2 people died from COVID-19 in the past week, both in their 70s. Public Health says one of the deaths was in the Eastern Health region and the other was in Central. There have now been 10 deaths reported in June alone and 192 since the pandemic hit the province back in March of 2020. 11 people are in hospital and 3 of them are in critical care. The Department of Health also reported 418 new cases over the past week. While reality is starting to sink in for Catholics in the St. John's area, many are finding out that their churches have been sold and will probably close very soon. Others were part of a successful effort to buy back their churches. Our Terry Roberts visited St. Patrick's this morning, where they are reeling from the news that an unknown bidder has bought their place of worship.
It's a regular weekday mass. A handful of churchgoers, mostly seniors, occupy the pews. More than 140 years of history surround them. A grand old church where generations of Catholics have practiced their faith, with a prominent place in the city's architectural landscape. But this is no ordinary mass. Unless their prayers are answered, the days are numbered for this church, and Father Fleming may be doing this somewhere else. That's because as soon as a court approves it, St. Patrick's will be sold. I was speaking with Father James Fleming before Mass here this morning, and he tells me they were not expecting anyone would buy historic St. Patrick's Church, and they don't know who did. As a result, he tells me this is a very emotional time for the congregation.
I'm devastated. Absolutely. I don't think anybody would ever have seen something like this happen.
These women typically leave a church service feeling refreshed and full of hope, but not today. Emotions are running high as they try to imagine what the future holds. Mary Ring was baptized at this church 84 years ago.
I feel like there's something going to be missing in my life.
Leona Dooley says her return to the church a few years ago turned her life around.
It's not just my parish. I consider this my spiritual home.
Michelle Martin and her husband were married here.
My heart bleeds for all the parishioners. They're very sad. This is a very difficult time.
It's bittersweet for Michelle Martin. She helped lead an effort that successfully bid on Holy Rosary Church in Portugal Cove. But St. Patrick's is only a few kilometers from the Basilica, has been struggling to pay the bills for years. So the congregation decided not to pursue a bid, hoping potential buyers would stay away.
And to know that you're going to drive by and some of those places will be gone, or they'll be deconsecrated, or if they could be torn down, we don't know what they're going to be used for, and that is heartbreaking.
Some of these churches expect to close within weeks as new owners take possession, with more and more details filtering out as the mass sell-off of Catholic properties continues, all part of an effort to compensate Mount Cashel abuse victims. This church here on Torbay Road sold to an unknown bidder. Again, part of an unprecedented shakeup here in the Archdiocese of St. John's, an organization with more than 200 years of history here in the province. So here's what we know going forward, that the number of parishes here in the city will shrink from 9 down to just 3. Terry Roberts, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, it was a big day at the Stephenville Airport.
Are you excited or what?
As people in the West Coast town greeted passengers arriving from Ontario, a sight not seen since the beginning of the pandemic. For the first time in more than 2 years, a scheduled commercial passenger flight landed in Stephenville this morning, bringing with it some welcome hustle and bustle. Sunwing is operating a weekly service from Toronto to Stephenville this summer. Well, who's the best doggy? That would be Finance Minister Siobhan Cody's Labrador Retriever, Bo, and he's got the award to prove it.
Okay, this is live from Westminster in New York.
This afternoon, the St. John's Board and Bred Labrador Retriever won Best in Breed at the Westminster Dog Show in New York. Bo, short for Beaumont Hamel, was one of 67 world champion dogs competing for the title and the only Canadian dog in the mix. Siobhan Cody says Bo was already a grand champion both in Canada and in the U.S. and now, with his Best in Breed title, will move on to the Best in Group competition tonight. That broadcast is going to air at 9 o'clock this evening, Newfoundland time. That's 8:30 in most parts of Labrador. And from there, fingers are crossed because the hope is that Bo could fetch a spot in the Best in Show competition. We reached Siobhan Cody and co-breeder Fabian Negron earlier this afternoon.
My husband and I have been breeding Labradors because we wanted to have the best Labradors in the world. As you know, they're a heritage animal in Newfoundland and Labrador, and they're the best animals in the world. To have him here at Westminster, to see him stack up against the best of the best, it certainly is an honor. And I'm so thrilled that it happened during Come Home Year because, of course, we have a heritage dog show coming up in Bay Roberts, in Harbour Grace actually this summer as well, and Bo will be in that show. Great for Newfoundland and Labrador because, of course, now we can say one of the best comes from our home province.
Well, it's a warm day today, even warmer air moving into the end of the week. Thursday into Friday, temperatures in the high 20s. I'll get into the full forecast details coming up.
The weather might be wicked and the water often rough, but twice or more a month, sure we get to fill our cups.
It's been really, really, really fun to be a part of this new kind of storytelling.
It's a musical that's swimming with local connections. Alan Doyle stars in Tale Harbour. We'll have more of that in just a little bit on Here and Now.
A multi-million-dollar study is about to get underway, and it's about something we know all too well in this province: fog. An international expedition will study fog along the east coast of Canada from Sable Island to the Grand Banks.
And that's all thanks to the CBC's Paul Withers. Here he is with the explainer.
A Nova Scotia cove socked in with fog. a familiar scene in Atlantic Canada, but marine fog is one of the most elusive weather phenomena.
As we know, marine fog is very difficult to predict, one of the least predictable in marine meteorology.
These scientists want to change that. They are part of an international field study off Canada's east coast next month, here at a hangar loading atmospheric equipment destined for Sable Island. The goal, to better predict marine fog. How far ahead can we actually predict?
Well, currently it is not more than few hours. Even that might not be correct because the fog is rapidly changing, and that is the difficulty. So different scales of the atmosphere come into play, and we don't have a good handle of these different scales, how they interact and produce fog.
Fog is created when water droplets form around particles, but the interaction of all of the atmospheric processes involved is not well understood. The consequences are fog can quickly ruin visibility everywhere, from harbors to highways to airports.
The prediction is critical because every year in Canada, approximately 50 to 60 people dies because of the visibility fog-related issues.
The U.S. Defense Department is contributing $7.5 million to the non-classified study. Fog can interfere with weapon systems, an important element in this study.
Laser beam propagation through the atmosphere so that the targets coming in can be nullified by the laser beam. If you have fog, it's very difficult to do the job.
In addition to the Sable Island field work, this Irving-owned offshore supply ship has been chartered for a month-long mission in July to cruise between Sable Island and the Grand Banks.
So that's sort of what I've designed here to do with it.
Some of the instruments it will carry are from this lab at Dalhousie University, led by aerosol scientist Rachel Chang, who studies how water droplets are formed.
I'm hoping that we can really try to link the particles that we see in the air to the droplets that we see in the air to the visibility and climate effects of fog.
Some of the Canadian scientists involved in this international effort.
This is the largest fog project ever undertaken.
Next year, the search for fog will move to the Yellow Sea off China. Paul Withers, CBC News, Halifax.
And speaking of fog, take a look at this. Our videographer Curtis Hicks gathered this image earlier today.
Yeah, you could really feel that temperature shift too, with that fog funneling right in through the Narrows, covering the hills, right through the Battery there, going right past the Basilica. What a show. Tourists must have got a few good snaps of that there today. You don't see that very often.
No, you don't. You could even see it just coming overhead earlier today, and then it would dissipate. It was actually really cool.
And cold. Like, it happened so fast. You just felt it just dropped like a stone, the temperature.
It does, yeah. In fact, it's still that way in some cases. Take a look at the temperatures. If you were in onshore flow today around that fog, so near the harbor, it was 10 degrees or is 10 degrees right now. In St. John's, you go into Mount Pearl, the Goulds, 22, 24 degrees. So definitely thanks to a sea breeze. In fact, when we have those light winds, warm temperatures, that's what tends to happen. But if you take a look at the temperatures everywhere else across the province today, pretty nice across the island. 22 degrees in Terra Nova this afternoon, 13 degrees in Bonavista. That's where we did see some fog earlier today as well. And then up across the Big Land, around 15 degrees in Cartwright was your daytime high. Now, there's not a whole lot of humidity right now. It's only feeling more like 23 in Gander and 22 in St. John's. But as we head through the next couple of days, we're going to start to see a pattern shift. And that means that the humidity will return, at least for the eastern half of the island and even along parts of the south coast as we head through Thursday and even into Friday. And this is going to be with some warmer temperatures as well into the 20s. So Humidex Valley is expected to feel like the 30s in some cases through central. So what we have right now is an area of low pressure. You can see that spinning counterclockwise to the west right now. Lots of cloud cover up across the Big Land. And if we zoom in to the island, it started off a bit cloudy today, but as the day went on, the clouds cleared. Actually pretty lovely out there right now. You can see that fog moving a little bit further north as well. So as we head through the night tonight, some showers will continue up across Labrador. We may even see a few showers, especially along the south coast. Fog developing yet again tonight. And then even as we get into the early morning hours, we might see a few showers start to creep up for the eastern half of the island into at least the first half of tomorrow morning. So temperatures tonight aren't really going to move too much from where, if you're along the coast right now anyway, 12 degrees in St. John's with those winds generally light around 5 to 15 kilometers per hour. And then a little bit more breezy as you head towards the west coast, certainly for western areas of Labrador. They'll be out of the southwest between 30 to 50 kilometers per hour. Temperatures cool down along the coast, northern peninsula, and coastal areas of Labrador as well, about 6 to 9 degrees. Otherwise, central and western Labrador, you're looking at temperatures between 12 and 13 overnight tonight. Now, the chance of showers will continue for the eastern half of the island at least through the first half of the day. The west coast looks absolutely beautiful, and eventually central will clear as well. Now, most of Labrador will see that chance of showers continue through the day. Southeastern portions still looking pretty beautiful, but then we're going to see things get a little bit more unsettled as we head through the night and into the first half of Friday as well, especially for areas along the west coast. Temperatures tomorrow should be a few degrees warmer than what we're seeing today, but winds will be a bit more brisk out of the southwest between 20 to 30 kilometers per hour. And then again, that chance of showers in the first half of the day. 23 degrees for Clarenville tomorrow as you head towards central. Other than that chance of, or other than cloud cover in the morning, the afternoon looks absolutely beautiful, anywhere from 23 to 26 degrees. Again, humidex values feeling closer to the 30s tomorrow. Onshore flow expected for the south coast, so you're still looking at that chance of showers. West coast looks beautiful, a bit breezy. Southwesterlies 20 to 40 kilometers per hour. Still hanging on to the chance of showers for Labrador, at least through the first half, but 21 degrees in St. Anthony, 22 in Mary's Harbour. And if you take a look at the temperatures right across Labrador, they are sitting anywhere from 17 to 22 degrees, but it will be unsettled through the day. Now, the temperatures are going to warm up as we head through the weekend as well. I'll get into those details when I come back.
Well, Memorial University grads got to celebrate this week at the Mary Brown Centre in St. John's. An extra 4 ceremonies were added to honor those who completed their programs during the pandemic. But unlike traditional convocation, there was a little bit more flavor in there. Things were a little more upbeat with a 22-minute star hosting and several musical performances to boot. Take a look.
My happy duty now is to declare your postponed convocation celebration open. And you don't do a convocation, Jeremy, you live it. And it's different every time. And the people who make it up make it different. And it's a stunning moment in people's lives. And it's wonderful to see that the university is being chosen for people, that people want to attend and come, and because the university is so important for our future.
Graduates, this is your moment. It's here. You did it. Congratulations. Give yourselves a round of applause. It's happening.
I was jobless for a bit, pandemic. I didn't want to move away from home. And then, I got a job last November, so working hard and being an engineer. Yeah.
So how does it feel to be able to walk across the stage and get your degree?
Oh, it feels great. Finally. And we had such a great presentation today from everybody, so that was awesome. It just felt like we were back where we started.
I graduated in February 2021 with a Masters of Engineering.
And when did this little guy come about? Were you still in school?
Just after my graduation, and I'm still doing my PhD, so he's with us. It's fantastic. We were looking for that day. So.
And what about you? What was it like for you today to be able to graduate with your son watching?
We are so glad that the university offered us this moment.
So my job, I'm the student life coordinator at Trent University, and I guess that job involves a little bit of life.
And I always like to sort of ham it up a little bit. My students appreciate it back home where I work, and professors kind of nudged me and said, hey, maybe you should do a little something fun. So I thought, why not do a little pratfall just to liven up the stage a little bit, yeah.
Christopher Neelan is from Port Hope, Ontario.
It's been a long wait for sure. Super excited, super anxious to finally get here. I did my degree online, so this is my first time in St. John's in Newfoundland, and just wanted to really experience this and have an opportunity to cross the stage.
Noah Sean Williams.
Oh, you know, it was amazing. It was really great to be able to see people I haven't been able to see in a while, and I just found that being able to actually feel like it's finally over, it was such a wild experience, and I'm really grateful that we were able to convocate today.
Put your wings together in the Chicken Center right now. 1997, I graduated, and it feels like it was a long time ago, but it feels now like it was yesterday because all this energy from these new graduates is contagious. I've never done a university convocation, but now I'm going to go on tour and do nothing but university convocations across the country. So look out for the Trent McClellan Convocation Tour. We'll be coming to a town near you very shortly.
Welcome back to Here and Now. Well, politicians and Indigenous leaders met this morning to discuss issues tied to the transient population in Happy Valley Goose Bay. It's all part of a new initiative called the Acute Response Team. The mayor calls it a crisis and says something needs to happen, and fast. Our Ariana Kelland spoke with him.
Mayor Andrews, you had your first meeting with the Acute Response Team this morning. How was meeting number one?
It was good. There was representatives there from government, cabinet ministers, the Indigenous leaders, myself, our local MHA. So it was a good meeting.
From the municipality's standpoint, what are the biggest issues that you feel need to be addressed right away?
So we originally, when we visited with the Premier on 2 occasions and the cabinet ministers, we brought the concerns that our community was in a crisis situation because we had seen an increase in escalation in terms of transient folks within our community, and the things that were associated with that in terms of public safety. And the Premier engaged us with giving us funding for 2 MEOs. But like I say, it's all in an attempt to try and improve public safety for everybody in our community, whether you're a resident, a tourist, you happen to be a transient person. Public safety is paramount, and we need help.
We know that year after year you are seeing an increase in the number of people coming to Goose Bay, especially in the spring and summer. Can you give us a sense of what it's like in the town right now? How many people are you seeing, and are you seeing an increase in calls for disturbances, those types of things?
Yeah, so it's difficult. I don't have a number. I've never seen the number, but I've heard from anywhere between 30, 40 and upwards, and I guess the number may fluctuate as people come and go. But we expressed to the Premier when we in April, our municipal enforcement officer reacted to or interacted with 87 complaints of just public intoxication, and this is just one example. In May, when we met the Premier on the 23rd of May, the public intoxications were at 287 on the 23rd, and by the time we've met the remainder of the ministers and went back the second time, we ended May with 410 public intoxication complaints and files that our single MEO dealt with. So that doesn't include the calls that were made directly to the RCMP and stuff. So it's an indication that that type of activity is increased, and of course the other activity that's associated with that. We reached out for help because as a municipality, I'm in charge, our council is in charge of roads, ground, water, sewer, taxes, dog catching, things along that lines, and providing services to our residents. I don't have the luxury from around our staff to include, social workers or caseworkers or crisis team members, things like that. So the only thing that we have from a tool in our toolbox that we asked for was additional municipal enforcement officers to help I guess, enhance public safety in one form. So that's from our perspective, I don't know what the fix is. My council don't know what the fix is. So we reached out for help. We're really hoping that this will result in some things that may not solve, but it will improve public safety, because the goal is that my council and I, we don't want to see anybody else harmed or unfortunately maybe killed in a road accident or any other thing in our community. We just need help to resolve this transient issue.
And there's some discussion too over the difference between someone who may be transiently homeless and someone who is homeless. Can you describe what this population, where these people are coming from, and what some of the challenges are here? Because I know that there are many different issues here. There is some intergenerational trauma, addiction, alcohol addiction. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Predominantly it's folks that came to our town for various reasons, whether it be, hospital appointment, through a court process maybe, or, various reasons along that lines, or just came. And have decided that they're not going home at this particular point. So that is important, because the other side is that how can you fix something that you don't know what the situation is. So that interaction's happened. Our MEO has a very good relationship with the majority of the folks, and the challenges are around the addictions and the alcohol perspective. So that's what generates this public safety concern and crisis.
And when is the next meeting of this acute response team? What are the next steps?
Yeah, so the next steps, I guess we will. The next meeting is the 28th of June, and again, I reiterated the fact that we need immediate help. So we're hoping that we can generate some good ideas amongst the group, or some tangible steps that will work with us immediately, or in a very, very short order to enhance the public safety perspective for our community.
All right. Thank you so much for your time.
Well, you can feel the buzz in Prince Edward Island all the way here in Newfoundland and Labrador. A brand new piece of musical theatre is about to premiere at Charlottetown's Confederation Centre of the Arts. It is called Tale Harbour, and after a summer-long run in Charlottetown, the musical is moving here for a run through the arts and culture centres in Newfoundland and Labrador. Now, this show is swimming with connections to this province, not least of which is the show's star and co-author, Alan Doyle. Alan is graciously joining us backstage in Charlottetown now. Alan, tell us about where you are today.
I am at the Confederation Center for the Arts in Charlottetown, downtown. It's kind of like the equivalent to the Arts and Culture Center here. And they do, of course, the storied Charlottetown Festival has been going on here since the mid-1960s, where they do musical theater, Anne of Green Gables, and a couple other things every summer. And we're just lucky to have Tale Harbour to have been created here and to be rolling here this summer before we bring it to our first stop in Newfoundland and Labrador.
Speaking of rolling, Alan, you've spent a lifetime on stages, but this is your first time doing theater. Are you feeling some of that old opening night jitters coming back?
Not a little bit, quite a lot. Yeah, it's you know what, I've said this. I've said that the whole thing is terrifying so often, and I stand by it. It's exactly what performance art should be, and that, like, of course, I've never done anything like this before, and it's but I'm surrounded by a very talented team, primarily headed by Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, really. My friend Ed Rich, of course, is one of the head writers on the show, and our friend Gillian Kiley is the director, and Leanne Vardy is the head of lighting, and then there's a few Newfoundlanders in the cast, Steve Guy McGraw and Alison Woolrich, and I feel like I'm in good hands, and it's been really, really, really fun to be a part of this new kind of storytelling.
Now, this story, too, fits firmly in an ongoing tradition. This story is adapted from a great film that I know many people in this province know and love. Why don't you just set that up for us?
So this project, Tale Harbour, is an adaptation of a film that most Newfoundlanders and Labradorians know called The Grand Seduction, which of course was filmed in Trinity and starred Brendan Gleeson and Mark Critch and Gordon Pinsent and so many other, and Mary Walsh and so many other great Newfoundland and Labrador actors. And it's really about a small fishing town that has lost its plant and is in the running to get a replacement facility that will save the town, but they have to overcome one significant hurdle, which is to land a full-time resident doctor. So in Tale Harbour, in our show, a doctor is coming on a month-long locum, and so the people of the little tiny Tale Harbour have 30 days to convince the visiting doctor that Tale Harbour is where he should spend the rest of his life.
And I think that there's a bit of a PEI twist where in the Newfoundland and Labrador story, they're trying to lure a petroleum factory to the small town. But in PEI, that's been changed to a potato factory.
Potatoes.
Could it be anything else?
Yeah. French fry factory. It's the greatest, like fish and chips, like is what we're going for. There's a few, like, well, not just a few, but a few significant changes in the differences between our show and the original film. Of course, the original film that we're talking about is the English version, but of course, there was a French film before that. It's actually a Quebec story of origin.
Do you feel like people in PEI are appreciating it on the same level, that kind of theme of the small town needing to get this victory to keep itself going, a theme that people in this province very much can relate to? Do you feel like people in PEI are going to relate to this story as well when it premieres on Thursday?
It's a wonderful night out for people that's filled with laughs and songs that's, from our end of the world. But it's kind of a universal story that I think a lot of people will understand right now. I mean, the whole notion of having doctors in rural communities around the world is becoming more and more difficult. It's in the news every other second day, or whatever, about how such and such a place has lost their doctor. And it's also this big sort of fight for rural life, right? Which during the pandemic took on a whole new thing. So, I mean, without knowing it, I feel like we may have lucked into giving people a very topical night out. That is, it speaks of things that are very important to people right now: home and gathering and rural life, and then because it's heartfelt, but it's also really, really funny. That it's a great chance for people to come out for the first time in 2 or 3 years and get together and laugh and sing and clap and to talk about something that's meaningful to them.
Wow. Well, I wasn't able to get to PEI this summer, but I'm really looking forward to catching this when it rolls into our neck of the woods. So, Alan, all the best with the premiere. Say hello to all the gang there from Newfoundland and Labrador in Prince Edward Island working with you, and have a great show.
Well, so thanks, everybody.
Welcome back. And now the news I'm really waiting for. There's more good weather coming, right?
There is. Yeah,
This
we're
is where
already
it starts.
we're already looking ahead to the weekend. Temperatures definitely getting warmer in some areas. Let's take a look at the forecast for your Friday. Sunshine and 24 degrees in St. John's. So the best chance of showers will be for the western half of the island. And unfortunately, because we're in that onshore flow along the south coast, temperatures will be a bit cooler. So Port aux Basques only reaching a high near 13 degrees. Now, the further north you go along the west coast, the warmer the temperatures. 27 degrees. Again, humidity in the forecast, which means it'll feel more like the 30s through the day on Friday. Temperatures up across Labrador getting back into the 20s as well. Chance of a few showers possible for Lab West. Now, as we head through Friday evening into Saturday, there's that shower activity I was talking about. Now, it's going to head towards the west coast for the most part. So it does look like a wet start to the weekend. Eventually, that will work its way across the island, and by the evening hours, most of the province should be seeing some showers. And temperatures, again, on Saturday, although cooler in that rain, will be around 19 to 22 degrees, the warmest. The further east you go, St. John's should be about 24 degrees through the day. And again, sunshine and showers arriving as the later in the day. Up across the Big Land, temperatures will dip a little bit, but still 19 degrees and sunny in Lab City. The chance of showers will move towards the southeast as we get through the day. Long-range forecast doesn't look too bad. However, some showers possible on Sunday, a few for St. John's and eastern Newfoundland, but temperatures will be in the 20s. Overnight lows fairly mild as well, anywhere from 14 to 18 degrees through the weekend. Now, for central Newfoundland, you're looking at some sunshine by Sunday, 26, 27 on Monday with a bit more cloud cover in the forecast. In western Newfoundland, you're looking at the chance of showers right across the board, even into Monday, but the sun will peek out at times as well, and then the temperatures will rebound as we get into Sunday and Monday. Now, as far as Labrador goes, you're going to see some pretty significant warming as well, especially for eastern areas. 26 degrees by Sunday with some sunshine, and then some showers will arrive on Monday late day, but 28 degrees. So for western Labrador, you're looking at those temperatures into the 20s as well on Sunday. By Monday, dipping a little bit with the chance of showers. Now, speaking of some nice weather, look at this view in at Cape Spear. Wayne shared this photo with us on the East Coast Trail. Thank you for that. If you have any weather photos that you would like to share with us, send them to my Facebook, Twitter, or email at nlphotos@cbc.ca.
How gorgeous is that? You know what? It's a beautiful day to be landing here in Newfoundland and Labrador, especially if you haven't been here for a while. And that's the story for Stephen Dunn right now, just touching down in his hometown. That's because tomorrow he's going to be here for the launch of the brand new Queer as Folk series. So that's got the world talking. And actually, the premiere is going to be happening at the Cineplex Theatre tomorrow. Mary Walsh is going to be hosting. So it's actually a fundraiser for Quadrangle. We're going to be talking with Stephen Dunn coming up tomorrow night here on Here and Now, but you can still get your tickets for that event online, and we'll have all the latest details for you tomorrow.
Perfect. Good night.
Have a great night. Thanks for watching.